Today I wanted to talk about something that it's maybe a little hard to describe, but it has to do with the fact that, um, well, after having sort of gone back to playing music over the past year, I've also had to deal with some of the same um, emotional issues that used to come up for me regarding practicing and performance um, that came up when I was much younger. And it's interesting that some of these things just don't seem to really change. Um, some of them are just very distinctive characteristics of my personality now. It seems to be that if I don't really care what I'm doing, okay, well, I mean, I don't want to say like that I don't care about my work that I do to make money. I do care. I want to do a good job. I want to be reliable, do everything and everything. Okay. But it's just not in the same category, apparently, in my psychological structure. It's not something where I'm looking to constantly perfect every little detail, or it's not something I'm worried about going to perform. It's a job, and I get paid for it, and it seems very practical, and it's very just a very normal kind of thing to me. So the problem is that music always felt to me like a super special thing that I sort of had to treat with kid gloves or something. And what would happen for me is that the slightest thing could tip me off. Um, and it contributed to this extreme variability I would have in performance. Like some days I could literally, you know, blow the walls away with just, a good, well, I'll just say like good playing, okay? And then other days I would barely be able to play. Now, one of the factors that had to do with this, well, okay, so it seemed to be that there were certain people, I guess it's this hypersensitivity that I have to social situations and to the people around me, but certain people, and it's really nothing that they could do anything about, they don't know, they would be like, huh, really, did I have that effect on you? Or, probably, but um, sometimes someone will, for example, okay, if, various accompanists, um, some accompanists make you feel like everything is just wonderful and you feel like you can just play like $1,000,000 and that somehow with that particular person you will always do your very best. And I've had a couple of accompanists like that. They were great. Um, but then I've played with other people where I almost felt like it was a steamroller and I was just being erased and there was nothing that I could do to stop it. And my playing would just sort of go down to a bare minimum and I would be almost frantic to get out of there. Um, and I had that happen one time. I remember at an audition in New York City, I went there and this particular accompanist, I'd never played with her before. And it was just like, okay, I'm just going to rush her right through this whole thing. And it was kind of like a steamroll. And there was no way that I could have demonstrated anything about and any of my better notions about the music, if there were any, but it was just definitely leading me somehow immediately into a lower form of playing. And I've had that experience many, many times. And it I don't I don't think it's just subjective. I think it's objective. I think the objective result is under certain types of social situations or other situations, I will play very poorly. And it's I don't know. It's like there's nothing I can do about it. It makes me feel paralyzed, and it's very unpleasant. And of course, because it has something to do with something that seems so special, it becomes worse. It just becomes something very I don't know. and I guess I want to say pervasive. It becomes like a pervasive, unpleasant feeling that tends to make me afterward not really want to do much of anything. So, um, and as I said, I don't blame these people. They can't help who they are. They just are being who they are. And it's my hypersensitivity to influences or sort of my perceived influences from these individuals, or it can also be from situations like, and this probably goes along with the influence of the autism. Um, I can understand why Glenn Gould did what he did. Like, he had to have his piano, he had to have everything set up just perfectly, and then you'd get in a frantic mindset because this wasn't right. He didn't feel right this way. He was cold, or didn't have the situation just absolutely perfect. And that's kind of how it is for me. If I don't have my situation perfect, um, I can't really ace the thing. In fact, I'll be just very mediocre. And I wish I could somehow change that, but actually, I realized at this point in life, it doesn't really matter because all the playing that I'm doing now isn't going to have anything to do with major performances because it's just not part of this program that I have for the rest of my life. But I still get those feelings, and I still am bothered, and my practice is influenced, and my sound is influenced. And, like today I picked up my violin, and well, I'd gone to have it readjusted, and unfortunately something went kind of screwy with that. And there's now some really weird sort of wolfy tones on the A string when I just play an open string, and then there's other things that are ringing around it. I don't know, I just feel very kind of too upset, considering that the only thing I have to do is meet up with some people to play quartets, and it's just a kind of I don't know, I guess a social situation. And why should I care if I'm going to be sounding kind of, it's not like I had a high expectation about my violin playing to begin with. But still, despite all of my rationalization about this, the feeling that everything's not quite right and I just can't quite pull it together, and I'm just not, somehow I'm just too affected by this, that, and the other, and I'm just not on. I don't know. I wish there was something I could do about it other than just try to mentally go, okay, be here now. You're doing fine for whatever it is that you need to do right now. I mean, all of that, can kind of help. And I do realize, like, it's certainly not the end of the world. But it is just an interesting phenomenon to notice that that still is going on. And actually, I can't say it doesn't go on at work. I can suddenly exhibit extremely poor work performance if I think that someone's watching me. All of a sudden, I'll just be like, I do everything wrong, and I start fumbling with all the papers, and so, and they probably don't have any idea that they're having that effect, but it causes me to turn into kind of a I don't know, just something so. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I feel very dismissible at that point. Like, okay, well, I'm really not needed here, Except, then I remind myself, well, I do have to stay because I'm getting paid to do this. And then, later on, it falls away and I go back to like a normal performance or whatever. But it's just a peculiar phenomenon. I just wanted to discuss it because it's kind of at that convergence of psychology and music and performance. Anyway, so thank you for listening. Bye-bye for now.